You liking him so far? Yeah. Now let me introduce you to Walter Lippmann. This guy wrote a book, what is it, The Phantom Public? I couldn't even finish. I've read horrific things. I couldn't finish that man's book. It is so diabolical. Walter Lippmann, one of the most popular and highly revered journalists in history, his views were consistent with Bernays. Here it is. The hypothesis which seems to me the most fertile is that news and truth are not the same thing and must clearly be distinguished. The function of news is to signalize an event. The function of truth is to bring to light the hidden facts, to set them into relation with each other, and to make a picture of reality on which men can act. Only at those points where social conditions take recognizable and measurable shape do the body of truth and the body of news coincide. That is comparatively small part of the whole field of human interest. As he further explains in his diabolical book, Public Opinion, Lippmann believed democratic ideals, we don't have it, he believed that democratic ideals had deteriorated. And voters were ignorant about issues and policies, and they're just dummies. They lack the competence to participate in public life. They cared very little for the public process. You don't know, you don't care, you don't read those things. He wrote, quoting, that the governing class must rise to face the new challenges. Oh, a governing class. Exactly what our founders wanted. Oh, no. These people didn't believe in the founders. This guy hated them. When we come back, I'll show you what they created, and it was a great world. And I just want to ask you, when I show you what they've created, if you've seen it again, like now. I'll show you in a minute. Everybody just hates it when they, oh, stop calling the president a Nazi. Okay, great. Totally fine. I don't think I've done that. Just compare him here to the beloved Woodrow Wilson, who created the Committee on Public Information in 1917. And it had these guys. Remember, journalists, all of them. And look them up. By and large, the journalists that were out there complied with the official CPI guidelines in order to stay inside the information loop, because the journalists had a decision to make. Do we do what the Public Information Office is telling us, or do we get cut off? Think of all of these and see if there's any relationship at all to what's happening today, because we are repeating the Wilson administration. The news agencies that didn't respect the CPI's request were moved out of the information loop. Gee, who did that? I think President Obama did, by saying, oh no, Fox isn't even a real news organization. Tried to cut us out of the pool feeds. They issued 6,000 press releases. They also had 75,000 4-minute men. What are 4-minute men? These guys delivered 7.5 million speeches, spoke in front of 300 million people, all controlled by these guys, okay? 4 minutes, because that was the time it took to change the newsreel. Periodicals were also sent to more than 600,000 teachers for their use in their classrooms. It's almost like the EPA now coming in and teaching social and ecological justice. The Boy Scouts were used to deliver Wilson's addresses door to door. Wow, that's almost like community organizing. Almost 1,500 unique poster designs, many of them created to depict German people as bloodthirsty monsters. Okay, these are some of the posters. And gosh, this is almost like what they're doing with the National Endowment for the Arts, isn't it? Creating the posters. Oh, and they also made movies like Pershing's Crusaders, which, I mean, they already have Hollywood. So you've got that all under the direction. There was an official newspaper delivered daily to 100,000. Is that MSNBC? Is that the Huffington Post? Who is that? Then they kicked it up a notch. First, they did the Espionage Act of 1917. June 1917, Wilson asked Congress to pass this Espionage Act, making it a crime for anyone to interfere with the war effort through acts such as denouncing the draft. That's espionage? Well, he had to kick that up. A year later, He escalates the fight against free speech by signing into law the Sedition Act, which imposed fines and imprisonment for anyone convicted of criticizing the Constitution, the government, the military, or the flag. You got to put the flag in there because that makes Americans proud. It's widely regarded as one of the most repressive legislations in regards to free speech. We've never done anything like it before. Approximately 2,000 people were convicted under this Sedition Act under Woodrow Wilson. Many served prison time, many for the rest of the Wilson administration, until America came to their senses. I want to show you this as we're at the Sedition Act, because it's all being repeated, all of it. Here's an article from the Boston Globe about Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick, Barack Obama's good friends. Governor Patrick, who even decried partisanship in Washington, said today Republican opposition to the President Obama's agenda has become so obstinate that it is almost to the level of sedition. Sedition. So, in the end, what were the consequences of crossing Woodrow Wilson, the progressive hero? Next. America, there is a lot to take in here, and I hope if you DVR'd the show, you go back and watch it maybe a couple of times. We'll come back to this tomorrow. I want to show you the comparisons of Woodrow Wilson and what we're doing now. There were dire consequences of the Committee on Public Information, and here they are. The first one is the Department of Justice made lists of people that they say were dangerous. These were people that engaged in espionage all the way to just making pro-German statements. They kept people on a list. Then the DOJ oversaw and set up prisons in military camps for Americans that you just couldn't trust. In California, remember, the great progressive state of California, the Board of Education there banned the teaching of German in public schools because they said that was a language of brutality and hatred. Does any of this sound familiar? We could never do these things. Really? We've already done them. 2 administrations, Wilson and FDR. Then the Red Cross barred people with German names from working with the Red Cross. They isolated them. German names were then scrubbed from buildings and streets. Schmidt became Smith. Mueller became Miller. And then there's this one. This one's happening. The media and everybody else excuses correct violence. If you're on the right side, it's okay. In Minnesota, a minister was tarred and feathered because he was overheard praying over a dying woman in German. Tarred and feathered. Those people were acquitted because they were doing their patriotic duty. Propaganda, you can get people to do all kinds of things. Now, quick comparison. Wilson had the CPI. FDR had the Office of War Information. Pretty much same stuff. And Obama has Cass Sunstein and OIRA. Oh, and he also has the Media Matters and Center for American Progress and MSNBC and the Huffington Post and where else? The New York Times. I could go on. I'm sorry, America, but I'm going to leave you with a homework assignment because we're out of time. I want you to read Philip Drew, Administrator. You can probably find it online. Read it. It is this man's hero, and it's the architect of it'll show you what we're headed for. Tomorrow, FDR, Woodrow Wilson, and Barack Obama. You don't want to miss it. From New York, good night, America.